morning, everyone. This is Brian Edner with your Tuesday, April 16th morning commentary. Let's take a quick look at the numbers from yesterday from the USDA. Corn planting came in at 3% when trade was expecting 5%, and the 5-year average is 5%. Quick note on this corn report. This one is still just a bit early to get too excited about. We would anticipate a little bit more excitement from next week's report, which is typically known as the beginning of the Midwest planting, where we will be looking at a 5-year average of 12%. So let's just take this report and say, yeah, we're a little bit behind, but not get too excited about it till next Monday. Moving over to the wheat numbers, spring planting came in at 2% when 4% was expected. Neither of those numbers is anywhere close to the 5-year average of 13%. So the Minneapolis wheat is going to try and find some support. It'll run into a tough problem, though, because the good to excellent rating for the winter wheat is still at 60%, and that is what trade expected. That 60% is way above the 44% 5-year average. So that's really something interesting there, that the wheat continues to look very strong. So, again, that initially means KC wheat having a tough time, but, of course, the highly speculated contract of Chicago wheat will follow that good to excellent rating probably much more than it would follow the spring wheat number. We didn't mention much about beans, but what I want to do, let's take a look at this July bean chart. We haven't had much news, but if you actually look at this chart on the July beans, you'll see for most of the month of March and pretty much all of April, the trading range hasn't been that extreme. While we may see down days and get the impression that this market is trending lower, actually we haven't got much news, and we're not really moving that far either for the July bean contract. So a little important to take a look at that actual chart and see that while we might get the initial impression that it's trending down, it's actually more sideways than anything else. Let's also take another look at the ethanol, the pace of the ethanol over the last 21, 22 weeks. We continue to point out that it's been disappointing, but you take one quick look at this chart and you see all this long streak of negative percentages compared to last year. Right now, the USDA is running a year-long average estimate of 1.9%. And we see many of these numbers continuing to come in well below that. So, of course, that is going to be an issue. This is why we need to see an improvement on tomorrow's report here. And we actually need to see an improvement all the way to August. Otherwise, we need to expect the USDA will be lowering that number again on the next supply and demand report. Lastly, let's look at the weather maps here. We see the 1 to 5 day, not the world's biggest change here. Plenty of rain if you're talking about Iowa and east. I guess if anything you're going to point out on this map, you look at Nebraska and South Dakota, those two states do stay generally dry. So the areas that are known as the worst of the worst do catch a break here, but still obviously plenty of rain on that 1 to 5 day. Now flipping over to the 6 to 10 day map, yeah, there's still active rains here. This is less than what this map showed yesterday, and we got to start looking at this map and saying any area in the light green, which would be, 10% chance of rain or maybe only forecasting a sprinkle, especially in the southern Midwest. Any area in the light green here is all an area that could be planting, given this when we get out to the 6 to 10 day time frame. So you start to look at this, and all those areas of light green, that's a decent area that could at least get started. Let's move over to cattle quickly and give the numbers from yesterday. The average cash trade was 124.12, barely any improvement over the previous week, despite the late 128 talk from Nebraska. Again, that's the third week in a row we've heard improved Nebraska numbers late in the week, but doesn't show up very much on the weekly average. The national show list came in at plus 26,100. Initial impression from a show list like that, maybe $1, $2 lower cash trade here. As we go through this week, it is a Tuesday, so this is the day we lack the most news. Maybe won't get the most direction, but that national show list there is large enough to imply that we could be looking at lower bids, say, late this afternoon and maybe early Wednesday morning. So we'll look out for that in cattle and see what we get there. Still no activity from the funds. They are still record long, but haven't heard or seen much from them in over a couple of weeks. So we need to keep a watch out for them, but as long as they're quiet, we'll just keep a watch out but not anticipate that they'll be here today. So that's our quick notes here for this morning. If you have any questions, give us a call, 800-551-4626, or visit us on the web at allendale-inc.com.